new college sports roster limits revealed as House settlement expands scholarship numbers. And I did say a few days ago that I was going to go over that for a whole entire thing once it became official. And this is per Ross Dellinger on this, and I'll put this in the description below. And one thing you got to keep in mind, this only applies for Division One Power Conference schools. Schools in the Group of Five, FCS, and non-football playing Division One programs are only bound by the roster limits if they opt into the revenue sharing with players and all this. And more than 750 additional scholarship spots are coming to college sports. As part of the House Summit Agreement made public, college leaders are expanding scholarships to full rosters of each sport, eliminating scholarship restrictions and replacing them with full roster size limits. The new structure and the scholarship and roster structure in an attempt to prevent future lawsuits, which good luck with that, takes effect in the 2025 to 2026 academic year and coincides with the settlement's new model that permits schools to share revenue directly with the athletes. And commissioners finalized new roster limits earlier this week, and they were all revealed in the court's filing. In the new model, schools are permitted to offer a scholarship to each player on a sports roster up to the new roster limits. With the move, roughly 790 new scholarships are available across the 40 plus NCAA sports listed in the settlement. And according to a Yahoo Sports calculation, there are 500 scholarships available in all sports in the current NCAA model. Under the new roster limits, that number is now more than 1,200. For instance, the sport of football, with a current restriction of 85, will now have a roster limit of 105. That's a 20 increase, and give the maximum in baseball from 11.7 to now 34. And the increase there. As for the cage, as in the case now, schools are not required to distribute scholarships to each player. And those are not the defendants in the settlement case. Schools and conference, schools and conferences in the Group of Five, FCS, and non-football playing Division One programs are bound by the roster limits, reporting system, and enforcement mechanism only if they choose to share revenue with athletes. They can opt out of the new model if they decline to share revenue. As part of the stipulation in the settlement, no sport saw a reduction in scholarship spots. Many schools are preparing to increase scholarships significantly. According to several Power Conference administrators who spoke to Yahoo Sports, programs are planning to spend $3 to $7 million in additional scholarships each year, and some of which, like $2.5 million, can count towards the annual revenue sharing cap, expected to be at or around $21.5 million. And for some elite programs, the cost of both the scholarship addition and the revenue sharing with athletes will exceed $30 million annually. To maintain compliance with the federal Title IX, any scholarship increases in men's sport will likely need to be replicated in a women's sport, which drives up the costs. But not all programs can afford to do so many additional scholarships. Some administrators are in the process of tiering their sports by decreasing their investment on certain sports and increasing investment in others. This includes staff, salary cuts, as well as the reduction of scholarships from Olympic sports, especially those that generate little to no revenue. And now I will go into each sport here. Okay, now tumbling, that's for a women's sport. The old limit was 14. The new limit's now 55. That's increased by 41. Obviously, we already went over baseball. That's the new limit's 34. Originally was 11.7. That's an increase of 2.3. Men's basketball was at 13. Now it's at 15. That's increased by 2. Women's basketball stayed the same at 15. Beach volleyball was for the women was at 6. Now it's at 19. That's increased by 13. Bowling for women, the old limit was 5. Now it's 11. That's increased by 6. Cross country for the men's side, that was at 5 originally, and then it's now in the new limit 17. So that's increased by 12. The women was 6 actually. The new limit's still at 17. That's increased by 11. Equestrian only for the women had like 15. Now it's up to 50, and that's increased by 35. Of course, fencing for the men's side, like 4.5 scholarships. Now it's like 24. That's increased by 19.5. Fencing for the women, the old limit was like 5. Now it's up to 24. That's increased by 19. Field hockey for the women, it was originally at 12. Now it's at 27. That's increased by 15. Like I said, about football, it was originally at 85. Now it's 105. That's starting next year, and it's going to be increased by 20. Now, men's golf, 4.5 scholarships. Now it's up to 9. That's increased by 4.5. Women's golf, 6. And old limit, now it's 9, and that's increased by 3. I would assume like gymnastics, like 6.3 for the men. Then now it's at 20. That's increased by 13.7. Now gymnastics for the women, it was originally at 12. Now it's at 20, and that's increased by 8. Ice hockey for the men, like it was at 18 now and originally, and now it's up to 26. That's increased by 8. Same thing goes for our ice hockey for the women's side, by the way. So track and field for the men was 12.6. Now it's at 45. That's increased by 35.4. Track and field for the women, it was at 18 actually, and it's of course the same number, 45, and that's increased by 27. Now lacrosse for the men, 12.6. Now it's at 48, and that's increased by 34.4. Lacrosse for the women, it was originally at 12, and now it's up to 38, increased by 26. Now rifle for both was like 3.6. Now it's up to 12, and that's increased by 8.4. Now rowing for the women, it was like 20, the old limit. Now it's up to 68. That's increased by 48. Skiing for the men, it was originally at 6.3. Now it's at 16. That's increased by 9.7. Skiing for the women, 7. Now it's 16. That's increased by 9. Now men's soccer was 9.9. The new limit is now 28. And that's increased by 18.1. And now for women's soccer, it was originally at 14. Now it's at 28. That's increased by 14. Now softball was at, the old limit was at 12. And now it's at 25. That's increased by 13. Like stunt, and y'all could look that up, for both men and women. Like it was originally at 14. Now it's at 65. That's increased by 51. Now swimming and diving, the men was at 9.9. Was there, and now it's up to 30, and that's increased by 20.1. The women swimming and diving like 14 originally, and now it's up to 30, and it's increased by 16. Now men's tennis had 4.5. Now it's up to 10. That's increased by 5.5. Now women's tennis was actually at 8. They increased it to 10 now. That's increased by 2. Triathlon for the women, 6.5, and now it's up to 14. So it's increased by 7.5. Now men's volleyball, it was originally at 4.5. It's an increase. It's now up to 18. That's an increase of 13.5. Now women's volleyball was at 12. They increased it to 18. So thus, the difference from the old limit to the new limit is 6. Like I said a few days ago. Now men's water polo, it was originally at 4.5. Now it's up to 24. And that's increased by 19.5. Now water polo for the women, it was originally at 8. And now it's at 24. That's increased by 16. Now men's wrestling, 9.9 was the old limit, and now it's up to 30. That's increased by 20.1. And women's wrestling, it was originally at 10. Now it's up to 30. That's increased by 20. So I will put this in the description below so y'all could see this, and it's going to take some getting used to on how many scholarships for each sport that you really want to watch. So you could keep that in mind going forward here. I know it's going to be an adjustment for me on some of these sports that I do watch consistently. So Anyways, if you like this content, hit the like and subscribe button. See you guys later on the road to 7 subscribers. Of course, ultimate goal is 1,000 more. So make money off this course. Like a video, comment video, really helps YouTube algorithm so more people can see it. Sharing the video does help as well, so more people can watch. And if you're watching, subscribe, hit subscribe button, hit the notification bell as well.